The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Friends in Recovery podcast, the podcast that is here to help you, a loved one, or a friend get started down the road to recovery. This is the Friends in Recovery podcast, brought to you by the Genesis House. Genesis House, providing a safe, nurturing environment to heal from addiction since 1992. Please be a friend and share our message with a friend on Podbean, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or YouTube. And now, here are your Friends in Recovery.
Hey everybody, welcome to friendsinrecoverypodcast.com. And it's nice to be here at Studio 21 Podcast Cafe in beautiful Salem, New Hampshire. I'm Mike Miles.
I'm Chionchio.
Jeff Zeizel.
We have a special guest today. We have Bob Cox.
Wait, hold on. I heard Jeff Zeizel.
Jeff Zeizel? Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Jeff Zeizel.
Sorry, I thought, I didn't, I know I'm sitting next to him, but, sometimes,
It's been a while. It's been a few months, right?
They got me off waivers. I came back.
his non-disclosures up or non-compete.
They brought me up from AAA.
That's right.
We appreciate you being here, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks
good
for
to be
coming.
here.
You're looking well.
It's like the good old days.
It is. I love you guys.
We've been doing this over a year now. You know that, right?
It's incredible.
I know.
Yeah.
And we
15 months, 16 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we have a special guest today. We have Bob Cox, good friend of mine, and good friend of Bill W's.
And Genesis House.
And Genesis House, correct.
Yep.
So, Bob, welcome.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be here.
Yeah.
Certainly, a pleasure to anytime I can talk about my recovery. In the attempt to maybe help somebody else is certainly what this program's all
Absolutely.
about. So it's been a great journey, and not a long journey like some people have had, but in a limited time that I have, been sober one day at a time. It's changed my life.
Well, that's how we all do it. We all do it one day at a time.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't matter how many years you have. I was at a meeting yesterday, Mike and guys, and I learned from a guy that was there with 10 months, give or take, or the day before yesterday I was at a meeting, and this guy was like, I thought this guy had like 100 years in recovery. I was like, I actually asked for his phone number at the end of the meeting. So you never know who you can learn from.
Good point. Good point.
Absolutely. Real quick, I just want to get the business piece over with.
Sure.
I want to thank Genesis House for sponsoring us. Also, please hit the subscribe button on any of your pod catchers that you're on or YouTube. That's really important to us. Back to you, Mike.
Sure. I mean, if you're out there listening and you want to get sober, this is a way to do it. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to surrender.
Contact us.
There's
Mike,
there's no future. There's no future in drug addiction, especially the epidemic that this country is going through right now, especially up here in the Northeast.
Absolutely.
With the opioids and the fentanyl, it's just horrific.
Yep.
People dying. I see it getting a little better. I think it has a lot to do with the government kind of getting involved and giving funds and trying to run a little bit more infomercials and just trying to tell people there is help out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's also been a shift in attitude where historically people who had substance abuse disorders and mental illness, there was a lot of shame and stigma. And now we realize, of course, those of us in the know in recovery or professional clinicians, we know that it's a disease. In the mid-50s, 1955, the AMA, American Medical Association, said that alcoholism is a disease. However, there's such shame and there's moral sort of viewpoints on it.
Absolutely.
But now, you're right, Mike, it does appear to be getting better. It has shifted. But the fentanyl epidemic, the opioid epidemic, was remarkably destructive.
It did. It destroyed us. I heard a statistic a couple weeks ago that it was a 10-year study that was done. In the past 10 years, the people seeking recovery or seeking treatment went up 1%.
Wow.
1% in 10 years. That's a great number. I mean, it's at least it's 1%. But my thought is, what's going on out there? Are we losing a lot of kids because of this opiate epidemic? Are these kids dying because of this?
Yeah. So actually, I've read a similar study, and I think it went up 1% to a certain year, and then it shifted.
Okay.
So, I just did a workshop on Friday at the EPA, Employee Assistance Professional Association meeting, and I asked the group, can you raise your hand if you know someone who passed away from substance abuse disorders? And everyone raised their hand.
Yeah, of course.
And so I think what has happened, it's like mainstream now. It used to be sort of hidden, or those people sort of viewed at. Now it's our kids. Now it's professional athletes.
Yeah.
Now it's doctors and lawyers and teachers and our
Housewives.
and our family members.
Yeah.
And it's taken such a dramatic toll that it impacts the entire United States.
Absolutely.
It is interesting because when they looked at how many people died, the last couple of years, it's like 70,000 people have died of opioid overdoses in the last year. When we look at how many people died in Vietnam from 1959 to 1975, which is when the Vietnam War ended, the official number when the war ended was like 59,000.
Oh my God.
Now it's higher. So in 16 years in a war in Southeast Asia, less people died than in 1 year in the United States in opioids.
That's insane.
It's crazy.
Well, you know what? And we have Bob here you were in that statistic. I'm guessing that you were more alcohol than opiates.
I was all alcohol.
Yeah. But you made that 1%. And all of us sitting here, we're blessed to be in that 1%. You know what I mean? And you guys out there listening, it's crazy. So I think what the reason why we want you on here is we want to find out how did you do it? You know, what did you do before? Give us your story, basically.
All right, I'll give you a quick synopsis.
Yeah, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
Yeah, that was quick.
And in conclusion,
Thanks, Ed.
That's all for our show, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I like everybody else. I grew up in an environment, where alcohol was around all the time, and started drinking early, like most people. So let's fast forward to maybe 20 years ago. I always worked a job or two because I had young kids, mortgage, blah, blah, blah. And, but I always was working the extra job because I wanted enough money to drink.
Yeah.
And I was the typical alcoholic. I was all about me, or drug addict. And, so I realized, I came to the realization that I was actually the smartest person on the planet, and realized, I have all these bills, I got all these kids, I got to make sure that they're taken care of, but I love to drink. I know, I'll open a bar. So that's what I did. So
you're a smart one.
Yeah.
now there's a plan. What can go wrong?
Sometimes they say, be careful what you ask for. Sometimes you get it. I got it right between the eyes. But yeah, so that's what I did. I got into the industry, and 21 or 22 years ago, and opened a nightclub up in Hampton Beach. And since that point, I immediately became a day drinker, a morning drinker, and was been that way since.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 20 years of boozing 7 days a week. The last 5 or 6 years, fast forward, I came home after the nightclub situation and opened a Irish pub, and then I was like in my glory. It's like, letting Jesse James hold your wallet type of thing. And and I was off and running, and so I was drinking from 6 a.m. till basically I passed out at night, 7 days a week. And the worst part of that was, I'm ashamed to say it, I really am. A lot of that I was driving around and drinking, and what? I belong in a room this size, surrounded by mothers against drunk driving with baseball bats, and let them just beat the hell out of me.
We all did it, though. We all did
it. I mean, I know. I've heard it time and time again at various AA meetings. I was overboard. Maybe everybody individually thinks they were overboard. Mm-hmm. I knew I was. I mean, I was leaving my restaurant because people were coming in to go to work, and I was 8 or 10 beers deep at 9:30 in the morning, and then I'd drive around till 4 or 5 in the afternoon, just 6-pack after 6-pack after 6-pack. It was awful. It was a horrible way to survive, and finally, I came to the realization that I needed help, and I just couldn't do it anymore.
Well, what was that pivotal moment that you needed help? What was it?
I was losing control of actually my legs. I've heard people talk about it. I've heard it called, alcoholic coma, and what have you. I don't know what the actual clinical terminology is for it, but it was bad. It was really bad, and it wasn't getting any better. And my disease just kept progressing and progressing, and to make the pain and whatever, it wasn't even fun drinking anymore. Right. I was just drinking to make the pain go away, the embarrassment, what have you, and it just spiraled completely out of control. And then came to the realization that my life was unmanageable. and reached out to Mike, and he, thank God, pointed me in the direction of the Genesis House. And I credit those people down there without question saving my life.
Yep. Yeah, there's a good team down there.
Oh,
absolutely.
my God, what a team. Steve Adams, forget it. I know he's watching this, and I promised him I'd throw him a bone.
We love Steve. Steve's a great guy.
Great guy,
Phenomenal guy.
He was my son's therapist.
Was he?
Yeah, a bunch of years ago. Yeah.
But Steve and Rob and John and Didactic Mike and the whole crew down there, Marsha, they're just fantastic. And you know what? I know when I first got there, and this is for people who, potentially are considering going away for treatment. If you're fortunate enough to be steered in the direction of the Genesis House, I can tell you the moment I got there, I felt nothing but welcome. And, just the whole environment there is just a environment of recovery, and they've built it that way. And you can't help, but fall into the whole atmospheric pressure just to buy what they're selling. Yep. And that's what I did. And like I said, I credit those people, along with AA, obviously, with absolutely saving my life.
How long have you been sober now, Bob?
I started on my journey 3 years ago, and I had a relapse. I'm almost tempted to say, I was embarrassed to say, but you know what? I learned so much from that relapse. The pain and the suffering that I went through with that relapse gave me so many tools to put in my tool bag of defensive mechanisms to fight against, when that thing comes knocking on the door.
Well, here's the important part. You said it's part of your journey. Right. This is a journey, and Jeff, you probably see this all the time, and you might be a therapist. It's not a destination. Recovery is not. I'm not going to get to this point and then I'm cured. Right. It's a journey. We learn. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I learned from a guy who had 9 months. And I'm sure you guys see that all the time, right?
We can all learn from each other, but Bob, you brought up a really good point, which is that you made a mistake, but you took accountability for it, and you took responsibility. And then you also asked for help. So you asked Mike when you were sort of really struggling, and Mike has helped literally thousands of people. I've known Mike for, I don't know, probably 25, 30 years, and Mike has referred many people to me, and he has done a remarkable job really helping others. But you have to own it because as I like to say, you can't hire someone to do push-ups for you. So, you were doing your own push-ups. You said, hey, I need help. I can't go on anymore. Right. You were fortunate because your bottom could have been much worse.
Absolutely. And I've heard the stories. And they're everywhere.
And we know most people who drink tend to drive. In fact, the studies show that someone who's actively alcoholic has driven over 2,000 times and never driven 2,000 times drunk and not get arrested.
Right,
so,
not been accountable.
Nobody do that out there, please.
Right.
We're not, but unfortunately, that's some of the. There's consequences of that. Right. There's DUIs, there's death, there's killing other people.
That would be the worst. In my opinion, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I killed an innocent person. It would ruin my own life. I know it would. I wouldn't be able to deal with it.
Tough. Bob's been very humble too. He's taken his own recovery, and he's decided to help other people. And right now, he's in the process of trying to open a sober house, but
a clubhouse, I think.
Clubhouse, like from soup to nuts, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I mean, just thinking about what he's trying to do would boggle most minds. And plus, he has to run his own business. He's got a couple jobs, and this is all he talks about. This is what he wants to do, and I think it's incredible that he wants to give back on this level. A lot of people just get sober. It's a selfish program. We get sober. Sobriety, selfish. You have to take care of yourself a day at a time. But Bob's at a point in his life where he really feels like he can help others, and I think that's kind of remarkable.
Well, that's definitely part of recovery. I think we're going to go to a break in a minute here, but I think when we get back from the break, we'll find out what that is, what you're doing.
Sure.
Keep everybody in suspense, right?
We'll be back. Thank you.
Genesis House is a premier substance abuse and rehabilitation facility located in beautiful Palm Beach County, Florida. We have been providing the highest quality of addiction treatment since 1992 and are accredited by the Joint Commission. We offer a range of programs that include detox, residential treatment, dual diagnosis, a Christian track for people who want to incorporate their faith into treatment, a uniform services track, and we work with most major insurance carriers. Genesis House is led by a dedicated team of administrative and clinical professionals, and we stand on our commitment to excellence in recovery services. Contact us today to find out more about our program. Take the first step and call Genesis House at 800-737-0933 or visit us on the web at www.genesishouse.net. That's 800-737-0933 or www.genesishouse.net. Begin your journey to a long and successful recovery with Genesis House.
Hey, well, welcome back. Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, and it's good to be here with Jeff.
Ed Chionchio? Oh, you're Mike Miles.
Bob, and I'm Mike Miles.
It's progress, not perfection. Okay.
Hey, before we get going, I just want to give out my number because I've gotten several phone calls, and I think it's important. Feel comfortable. It's my cell phone. It's on an office. This is me directly, 24/7. I'm not guarantee I'll answer at 3 in the morning, but eventually I'll be getting up.
We hope.
Sometime between 11 and 7, and I will get back to you. 978-746-1717, and that's my phone number, 978-746-1717.
And of course, you can get a hold of Genesis House and me through the 800 number. It's 800-737-0933, and that's directly down at Genesis House. And if you need me, they can direct you how to get a hold of me. A couple other things, Mike, that you can email us at help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com.
Correct.
And I keep those emails coming. I'm getting a bunch of them. We're getting some good guests. If you want to be a guest on a show just like Bob is, Bob's just an alumni of Genesis House. And if you're out there listening, you don't have to be an alumni of Genesis House. If you want to share your story like Bob's going to continue doing today, call us at the 800 number or email us help@friendsandrecoverypodcast.com. And you can also, we have a website, friendsandrecoverypodcast.com, and go on there and you could submit, a way to get a hold of us too. So there's no excuse why you can't get help or no excuse why you can't help like Bob is today. This is what recovery is about. This is part of Bob's plan. Bob stays sober by doing these things. And even 25, 30 some years later, even Mike, we do the same thing. We help, we give back. This is giving back, sharing our story, sitting down for the half hour that we had with you before and just shooting the shit about recovery. That's what we did before this.
Absolutely.
And finding out what's going on, what you're doing and what's going on in our lives. Right. So,
one of the things that we know about people's psychological well-being is that when they do give back, that's a characteristic of resilient people. So when you contribute and help others, it's the old adage, it's better to give than receive. So you actually are helping yourself. And particularly with people who are dealing with substance abuse disorders, because we also know what they're going through, because those of us who have that disorder, they understand what it's like, and that person needs that sort of assistance. Now, they may not always take it, right? But knowing that someone else has been through that is remarkably useful.
I sit with clients, frequently, and every Sunday night for quite a while, I would take people to meetings, and it was no charge. Like I would just meet them at my office, half hour before the meeting started. And the meeting I would take them to is in Chelmsford, Massachusetts. It's called the Neshoba Group. They've been around for 40 years, 38 years. And it's every Sunday night, 7 to 8 o'clock. So I would take these people to meetings, people that were just coming to me as clients. I would meet them at my office. They'd follow me. And I got to tell you, what Jeff just said is so true. I probably got more out of that than I was sitting one-on-one with somebody who was going to pay me at the end of the session, because I was doing something that, in AA, there's 12 steps of recovery. The 12th step is that you have to give back. You won't hold this gift of sobriety, and it is a gift. There's no guarantee, but it is a gift. But you won't hold it long if you're not giving back. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
100%.
I mean, it's one of the mantras of AA is once you get it, give it back. And it took me a while to figure out exactly what that meant, because I didn't understand when I was brand new in recovery, and people would be talking about it. People with many years of sobriety, and until I realized that, one gentleman, similar to what Mike just said, asked me to bring him to a meeting, and I did, and it dawned on me that's exactly what they're talking about, and it is. It's to your point, Jeff, it's so rewarding, and it keeps you focused.
Right.
I mean, it's like attending meetings on a regular basis. It keeps you focused, keeps you in tune, keeps you in the world of recovery.
And you remind yourself where you've been. So like, gee, this poor guy or gal, I never want to be like that, but I can help them. So sometimes we see the difficulties that others experience and we become grateful for what we have. And it's a wake-up call, like, gee, if I don't take care of myself, I could have a problem of relapsing and going down.
Well, we got to keep it green to keep it clean, and we have to realize where we came from. So, listening to the stories, of getting in that car, Mike, with all those newcomers, that it's just amazing. I remember those days too. I remember traveling around with a bunch of guys, just even raising your hand in a meeting, saying, I got a problem. This is my I'm brand new at this, whatever. People go flock at you and they want to help you out. They're giving you phone numbers and the whole 9 yards. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And just like that guy said at the meeting, I went right to him after the meeting. He had 9 months, but who cares? He had something I want.
That's right.
He had something I want.
If you're sick and suffering, there's no way out. I mean, there really isn't, and there's no need to be sick and suffering. I can honestly say I probably try to quit boozing and drugging 100 times, 200 times, on my own. But until I actually went,
and that was in one day,
1 hour.
My mind was constantly thinking, how can I get out of this hellhole? How can I stop this? And I didn't know. I just didn't know. You don't know what you don't know until I actually went and got help, learned about the 12 steps of recovery, learned about living sober one day at a time, which is so important. And days turn into weeks, weeks into months, months into years.
It goes by quick.
So on,
So tell us what you're doing now to stay, 3 years into it, or 2 years into it, right?
Yep.
You said 2 years
Yep.
into it. You explained some of this stuff, and I know it's a short, condensed version here.
I'll make it quick.
Yeah, but what's the next step? What are you doing? Are you still going to meetings? Are you see a therapist? Are you doing things?
Well, I'm working, every day, but my home group meets 5 days a week at noontime called the Spark of Hope at St. Rita's in Lowell.
Right.
And I'm there more often than not. I'm fortunate enough to have a job that is flexible.
Great.
So I kind of make my own schedule. But, it's, this effort that we're putting forward came from something that Genesis actually, when I was there, they took us to a meeting at an offsite spot called the EDI Club down in, I don't know if it's Delray or Fort Worth or wherever it is down there, but I was so impressed that it was just all they did was have AA meetings all day long. And, it was really impressed me. And so when I got back, I called Mike and I'm like, how come nothing exists like this around where we are? And he said, I don't know. I said, well, I'm going to look into it. So anyway, I reached out to the people down there and established a relationship with the president of EDI and arranged to get down there. So I did last June, I believe. And while I was there, one of the gentlemen from
what is EDI? Can you explain that to everybody?
It's the Easy Does It Club.
Okay, and it's a club. It's a clubhouse.
It's a clubhouse.
Okay.
The only thing it does, its only purpose, is to facilitate AA meetings all day long, 365 days a year. So when I went down to look at it, one of the gentlemen from the Genesis house named Dave was good enough to take me around to various meetings, and he brought me to Crossroads.
Okay.
So when I went to Crossroads, I realized this was addiction, every addiction.
Right.
It was everything from drugs and alcohol and sex and gambling and Al-Anon. He actually had meetings there. So I sat and looked after an AA meeting that we went to. I said, I just want to watch. And I was watching these people come in, parents with children, and I'm like, this is what I'm bringing to Lowell. Right. And started on a mission to try to research that, met with the people from Crossroads, Tony Allerton, 91-year-old founder down there, established a great relationship with him. As a matter of fact, he called me last Wednesday to see how we were doing with this. I was so impressed. Right. But, an addiction is an addiction is an addiction. I don't care if it's alcohol or drugs.
I got a great idea. When this is up and running, when what's it called? Bridge over?
What's the name of what's
Troubled Waters.
We came back and incorporated under Troubled Waters, Inc.
Right.
In the state of Massachusetts, and it's going to be the DBA will be the Bridge Club of Greater Lowell, hence the Bridge over Troubled Waters.
So it's going to be a clubhouse where you can do all this, right?
It'll be Al-Anons every holiday weekend with a full service kitchen there. It's a lot going on.
There's a lot.
Good.
we're up against it right now, so we're going to have to run. When you get it up and running, Bob, I'd like you to come back and tell us all about it.
Glad
Absolutely.
to. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. Great seeing you.
Jeff,
Glad you're back.
Yeah. And give out that number again real quick.
978-746-1717 is my cell phone number.
And Genesis House is 800-737-0933. And if you want to get a hold of Bob, call Mike or myself, and we'll get you involved with Bob if you want to help him out as far as all that goes. Maybe you can use some help, right?
Absolutely.
Ed Sullivan, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Stay sober.
Thank you.
Keep coming.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.